Hello everyone, my name is Alexa Mogus, and in this presentation today we are going to be talking about the central nervous system, specifically looking at the cranial nerves. So what is the central nervous system? The nervous system is organized into the central nervous system consisting of the brain and spinal cord. The central nervous system is the body's processing center. It processes information from sensory systems in other parts of the body and initiates the appropriate responses to external and internal stimuli. In this slide, we are going to talk about a brief overview of the cranial nerves. So on this slide here, I have provided two images. The image on the left is a picture of the brain, its underside, and it is color coordinated with the 12 cranial nerves and the locations. The image on the right is a mnemonic to remember the cranial nerves. So this mnemonic, there is many of them out there, but this is the most popular one, and it is, oh, once one takes the anatomy final, very good vacations start happening. The first letter of each word of the mnemonic correspond with the cranial nerves in order, from 1 to 12. So the cranial nerves are a set of 12 paired nerves that arise from the brain stem. These nerves supply structures in the head and neck with both sensory and motor fibers. These nerves are important in sight, hearing, equilibrium, taste, smell, sensation of the face and scalp, eye movement, chewing, swallowing, facial expressions, and salivation. The first two nerves are the olfactory and optic nerves, and these arise from the cerebrum. The remaining 10 cranial nerves emerge from the brainstem. The cranial nerves are identified in Roman numerals, and their names relate to their function. The first cranial nerve is the olfactory nerve, and it is the shortest sensory nerve in the body. The olfactory nerve sends sensory information to the brain about our sense of smell. This nerve makes it possible to detect scents, odors, and aromas. In the nostrils, olfactory receptors are stimulated when inhaling tiny molecules from smells into the nose. In the back of the throat, chewing food and drinking releases scent molecules, and these molecules travel up the throat to the olfactory receptors in the back of the nose. The optic nerve is the second cranial nerve, and it is a sensory nerve that involves vision. Each eye contains its own optic nerves. The optic nerves relay messages from the eyes to the brain to create visual images. As light enters the eye, it comes into contact with both rods and cones in the retina to reach the optic nerve. Both optic nerves meet to form the optic chiasm. Nerve fibers from each retina form two separate optic tracts, and the nerve impulses travel through each of these tracts to reach the visual cortex where information is processed into sight. The oculomotor nerve is the third cranial nerve. It has two motor functions, muscle function and pupil response. This nerve allows for movement of the eye muscles, constriction of the pupil, and focusing the eyes in the position of the upper eyelid. The oculomotor nerve makes it possible to focus the eyes, elevate the upper eyelid, move the eyes inward, outward, up and down, and control torsion. It also responds to light by making the pupil smaller. The fourth cranial nerve is the trochlear nerve. This motor nerve sends signals from the brain to the muscles. It works in collaboration with the oculomotor nerve to control eye movement. This nerve controls the superior oblique muscle that functions in downward, outward, and inward eye movements. The trigeminal nerve is the fifth cranial nerve. The trigeminal nerve is like a tree extending from the brain throughout the face with roots and branches as seen in the pictures displayed on the slide. The three divisions of the trigeminal nerve are the ophthalmic, maxillary, and mandibular. This nerve is responsible for sending pain, touch, and temperature sensations from the face to the brain. The trigeminal nerve aids in biting, chewing, and swallowing, and it also allows you to feel facial and scalp sensations. The sixth cranial nerve is the abducens nerve. This nerve has somatic motor functions, providing innervation to the lateral rectus muscle. This nerve is associated with eye movement and is involved in outward eye movement. The abducens nerve begins in the pons region of the brainstem and enters the eye socket where it controls the lateral rectus muscle that is located in the eye. The facial nerve is the seventh cranial nerve. The facial nerve is very complex with many branches transmitting a combination of sensory, motor, and parasympathetic fibers. The course of the facial nerve is divided into two parts. The course of the nerve through the cranial cavity and the course of the nerve outside the cranium through the face and neck. The facial nerve moves muscles used for facial expressions and some muscles in the jaw. It also provides a sense of taste for most of the tongue. It supplies glands in the head and neck areas such as salivary and tear-producing glands, and this nerve also sends sensations from the outer parts of the ear. The eighth cranial nerve is the vestibulocochlear nerve. This nerve consists of the vestibular and cochlear nerves and is found in the internal auditory canal. The vestibular nerve is responsible for maintaining body balance and eye movements. Specialized cells in this portion track both linear and rotational movements of the head. The cochlear nerve is responsible for hearing. Specialized cells in the ear detect vibrations from sound based on its loudness and pitch. The ninth cranial nerve is the glossopharyngeal nerve. It provides motor, parasympathetic, and sensory information to the mouth and throat. The nerves begin in the brainstem and connect to organs, muscles, and other structures in the mouth and throat. The glossopharyngeal nerve ends deep inside of the neck near the back of the throat. This nerve sends sensory information from sinuses to the back of the throat, parts of the inner ear, and back of the tongue. It also provides a sense of taste to the tongue, and it stimulates voluntary movement of the stylopharyngeus muscle in the back of the throat. The vagus nerve represents the 10th cranial nerve. This nerve is diverse with both sensory and motor functions. This nerve controls specific body functions such as digestion, heart rate, and immune system responses. The vagus nerve also functions in mucus and saliva production, skin and muscle sensations, and taste. The spinal accessory nerve is the 11th cranial nerve. This is a motor nerve that functions to control the muscles in the neck. The muscles allow for movements such as rotation, flexion, and extension of the neck and shoulders. This nerve is also divided into two parts. The spinal portion originates in the upper part of the spinal cord, and the cranial portion begins in the medulla oblongata. Finally, we have reached the last cranial nerve, and this is the hypoglossal nerve, which is the 12th cranial nerve. This nerve enables tongue movement. It also controls the muscles that allow you to speak, swallow, and make noises with the mouth. This nerve starts at the base of the brain, traveling down the neck and branching out, ending at the underside of the tongue. And this last side is just a list of my references used to make this PowerPoint. Thank you for listening.